morning. Quiet down a little bit. Good morning. All right. I am Taylor Gill, a member of the Board of Trustees, and I welcome you this Sunday's service at the UU Church of Columbia. I have got kind of shorter, very curly, blondish hair, and I'm wearing a black dress with a yellow top over it. We are a congregation of many beliefs, striving together to embody courageous love, radical welcome, and deep connection. And we are so glad you are here. Whether in the sanctuary or on live stream, welcome. We'd like to particularly welcome any visitors among us this morning, and we invite you to find our Visitor Connect book in the greeting area. The Zoom chat or the QR code in the order of your service. We'd love to stay in touch with you. Children and babies are always welcome in worship, and we have a nursery care in the lower level for the youngest, and as well as a lively children's program for all ages. Children will be invited to their classes after a moment of centering and song. Now, let us settle into this time and place with a prelude from our own Director of Music Ministry, Violet Lonhar.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm a pale-skinned woman with very blonde hair on one side and brown on the other, parted in the middle, and I'm wearing some gold glasses and some shiny gold earrings today with a black turtleneck and white trousers. And I'm going to play a song for you that I wrote a few weeks ago. It's called Nowhere to Go. They're burning people in tents, and they're claiming that it's self-defense, and there's a reckless man who keeps stoking the fire, running for president, or is it the king of liars? And winter is coming, and nobody knows what's gonna happen, where they're gonna go, but there's nowhere to go but here. There's nowhere to go but here. 'Cause the roads are washed out from the hurricanes, and the heat and the drought makes the fires rage, and it's enough to make you go insane. And some days I know you wanna run away, but there's nowhere to go but here. There's nowhere to go but here. And my neighbors are hurting 'cause they can't pay for basic necessities to get through the day. And anybody tell me what it's gonna take? Does anybody know how we're gonna shake this feeling that we are all feeling alone? This feeling that we wish that we could let go, but there's nowhere to go but here. There's nowhere to go but here. If you can still feel your heart break, if you are still feeling like you're going insane, then that's a good feeling, 'cause at least you know that you've got a heart. Don't let that feeling go, 'cause there's nowhere to go but here. There's nowhere to go but here. There's nowhere to go but here. There's nowhere to go.
morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Molly Housh Gordon, the minister of this congregation, and we are here, and we are not alone. So let's be here together this morning. I am a white woman with red hair that's very long on one side and very short on the other. Today I'm wearing a vertically striped dress in jewel tones with a maroon blazer on top. And y'all, the election is in 2 days. How we feeling? Yeah, some of all of it? Woo! Can we take a deep breath together? We are here. We are together. Feel that this morning. Our opening words are from UU minister, the Reverend Luke Stevens-Royer, his poem entitled Prayer Ballot. I walk in as on pilgrimage. The altar cloths are red, white, and blue. The ushers are the women who have been running these things, who have been running everything since before I was born. I'm handed the ballot like a scroll because the questions seem that important, ancient and modern, of what my God and country ask of me. Who? Who for commissioner, mayor, president? Who for District 8, Ward 7, school board? Who will do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly? I make my mark with at least a shred of hope that something good will come from this. And regardless, I remember the world won't be destroyed entirely by this. The world won't be saved entirely by this. Marking my vote is like kneeling in prayer because neither will accomplish anything right away. But the purpose of both is to remind me of my deepest hope for the world I'm trying to help create. So I rise from prayer and turn in my ballot and remember the who is me and us and we the people. And again, I set to the task that is mine: justice, mercy, humble service in my small corner of the world. Let us now join in singing our gathering hymn. This is my song, number 159 in your gray hymnal. I invite you to rise or remain seated as you are most comfortable today.
I'm Sam Otten, the worship associate this morning. I'm a white man, middle-aged, average build, bald head, and I'm wearing a black polo shirt and some silver slacks today. As we light our chalice, symbol of our faith, in the cup of community and the bright flame of the human spirit, will you please join me in our unison affirmation, which is printed in the order of service? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Jamila Batchelder, the Director of Religious Education here. I am a 47-year-old white woman with lots of dark blonde hair and glasses, wearing a black turtleneck and a dark red cardigan. So I am not a fan of uncertainty. So the life strategy that I have generally adopted in the face of uncertainty is basically just to imagine the worst and brace myself against the inevitable terribleness that is to come. Does anyone else use this life strategy? It seemed like a fine strategy, I told myself, until recently I saw my child do it. And it broke my heart because when I look at him, all I see is the wonderful possibility of what could be. I don't want him beating himself up and beating himself down, imagining the worst. What if everything turns out okay? And if I don't think he should do it, then maybe I shouldn't do it. Maybe we shouldn't be doing it, because what if everything turns out okay? So that's what I want to do for our centering, to let ourselves for one moment imagine that things will be okay. Breathe in and breathe out, and see if we can relax from that bracing for the worst. Can you let muscles unclench? What is able to enter as those muscles relax and as your spirit opens? What if everything works out? What would you feel? Peace, relief, joy, possibility. Just sit with that a moment. And there is, of course, no guarantee how things will work out. Nothing is ever guaranteed, but everything is always possible. When we open to possibility, we are reminded of what we love, where our deepest care lies. There are no guarantees, only the reminder of what it is we are working most deeply for. There's a line of poetry from Rumi that I turn to over and over again. Your grief for what you've lost lifts a mirror up to where you are bravely working. Expecting the worst, you look and instead, here's the joyful face you've been wanting to see. Whatever happens, may we continue bravely working. And may the faces around us today remind us of why we continue to believe in possibility.
Now, during a moment of quiet music, I invite you into our ritual of stones and water. Those of you with us online are invited into a time of contemplation during the quiet music, and you may wish to share your joy or sorrow in the chat, which can be spoken aloud later during the time of prayer. For those here in the sanctuary, you're welcome to come forward and take a stone representing any of the hopes and fears that you bring with you this morning, and drop the stone in the water, which represents the embrace of our community. Those of you in person who wish to have a joy or sorrow spoken aloud may write it at a slip of paper at the back table, and that will also be shared during our time of prayer. So let us now come together for stones and water.
We hold in heart also those joys and sorrows not spoken aloud, but held very tenderly in the silence of our interiority. May you each feel yourself witnessed. May you each know yourself beloved. We continue in prayer and contemplation with the words of the Reverend Sarah Lawal. Spirit of life and love, in this time of fear and angst, in this time of uncertainty, our nation holds its collective breath. In this time when rhetoric blusters about and words are used as weapons, our nation clenches its fists, tightens its shoulders, eyes squeezed shut. Some are preparing for a fight. May we remember that we are a people of resilience. We have faced uncertainty before. We have weathered storms. We have been consumed by flames, and we have risen like the phoenix from the ashes, and we will again. We, the people. May we remember our shared humanity, our universal kinship, our interdependence, as we unclench our fists and breathe together, breathing in love, breathing out peace. May we recognize the spark of the divine inside all of us, even those we are not quite sure about. In this time of uncertainty, we remember the good will go on as we work to move forward together, seeking that which calls us to the work of the good, with our arms reaching out wide for life and liberty and the pursuit of happiness. In this moment, may love prevail. In the name of all that is holy, we pray. Amen. And our hymn of response is number 155 in your gray hymnal, Circle Round for Freedom. Let's sing it through Let's sing it through 3 times. It's short and beautiful. I invite you to rise or remain seated as you're most comfortable.
In the prologue to his memoir, Walking with the Wind, the late U.S. Representative John Lewis told a story that was one of his lifelong touchstones in the work of justice and love through many seasons and eras of our history. He writes that one day as a child, he was playing along with about 15 other children at his Auntie Seneva's house, when suddenly a big storm began to roll in. So he writes, Aunt Seneva was the only adult around, and as the sky blackened and the wind grew stronger, she herded us all inside. Her house was not the biggest place around, and it seemed even smaller with so many children squeezed inside. Small and surprisingly quiet. All of the shouting and laughter that had been going on earlier outside had stopped. The wind was howling now, and the house was starting to shake. We were scared. Even Aunt Seneva was scared. And then it got worse. Now the house was beginning to sway. The wood plank flooring beneath us began to bend. And then a corner of the room started lifting up. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. None of us could. This storm was actually pulling the house toward the sky, with all of us inside it. That was when Aunt Seneva told us to clasp hands. Line up and hold hands, she said, and we did as we were told. Then she had us walk as a group toward the corner of the room that was rising. From the kitchen to the front of the house we walked, the wind screaming outside, sheets of rain beating on the tin roof. Then we walked back in the other direction as another end of the house began to lift. And so it went, back and forth, 15 children walking with the wind, holding that trembling house down with the weight of our small bodies. Representative Lewis reflected further. More than half a century has passed since that day, and it has struck me more than once over those many years that our society is not unlike the children in that house, rocked again and again by the winds of one storm or another, the walls around us seeming at times as if they might fly apart. It seemed that way in the 1960s, at the height of the civil rights movement, when America itself felt as if it might burst at the seams. So much tension, so many storms. But the people of conscience never left the house. They never ran away. They stayed, they came together, and they did the best they could, clasping hands and moving toward the corner of the house that was the weakest. And then another corner would lift, and we would go there. And eventually, inevitably, the storm would settle, and the house would still stand. But we knew another storm would come, and we would have to do it all over again, and we did. And we still do, all of us, you and I, children holding hands, walking with the wind.
This is a song I wrote this week. It's called It Is Time. Don't you see, it's an empire falling. Can you hear the ancestors calling, saying it is time, it is time, it is time. It's the sound of the earth quaking in the ground. Can you feel it shaking, saying it is time, it is time, it is time. Keep your eye on the prize, this is gonna be a long fight. Don't lose sight, you know we're gonna be alright. Just give it more time. History is on our side, on our side, on our side. Keep your eye on the prize, this is gonna be a long fight. Don't lose sight, you know we're gonna be alright. Just give it more time. History is on our side, on our side, on our side, and it is time. Can you change and it is real. Yes, it's all rearranging 'cause it's time. It is time, it is time. Can you see the possibility we all could be living free? And it is time, it is time, it is time. Your eye on the prize, this is gonna be a long fight. Don't lose sight, you know we're gonna be alright. Just give it more time. History's on our side, on our side, on our side. Keep your eye on the prize, this is gonna be a long fight. Don't lose sight, you know we're gonna be alright. Give it more time. History is on our side, 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 on our side. So keep your eye on the prize, this is gonna be a long fight. Don't lose sight, you know we're gonna be alright. Just give it more time. History is on our side, on our side, on our side.
Thank you so much for the amazing original music this morning, Violet. What a gift. Friends, the thing I most want to tell you today, in this moment of deep anxiety and hope, 2 days before what may be the most important federal election of our lifetimes, is that no matter what happens in the coming days, our job is the same: devoting ourselves to the beloved community that always could be, that is breathing in the world of the possible just across the veil. It is our forever work, and the circumstances of it will be different, but that forever work remains. And we are joined in it by so many people of conscience, both now and across the generations. It is comforting to me in these anxious days to remember the faithfulness of those like Representative John Lewis, whose words we just heard, and hosts of others across generations who each in their own time struggled for the realization of beloved community over and over, always, even in the face of terrible challenge and injustice. We have so many ancestors like that. Last week, our pagan neighbors and friends observed the ancient Celtic holiday of Samhain, when the veil between the world of the dead and ours is said to be thin, and when we prepare ourselves and turn together to face the dark unknown of winter. And it is so good and so right to remember in this moment that our ancestors in the work of love, whether they are of our lineage or biology or choice or shared faith, our ancestors endured many cold winters and many threatening storms. As we sit in this moment of electoral uncertainty, suffering economically, witnessing untold global violence, wondering whether we will see an illegitimate power grab, and inspired by student movements and growing labor organizing, as we sit in this uncertainty, let us invoke those spiritual ancestors who strove for the good and the true, even and especially under duress, and upon whom we now model our own ongoing liberation struggle. Black Unitarian poet Frances Ellen Watkins Harper and white Unitarian minister Theodore Parker, our ancestors in the abolition struggle that seemed impossible until they won. Our Unitarian and Universalist suffragist sisters across generations demanding a voice and finding one. White Unitarians James Reeb and Viola Liuzzo and all of their black kin, martyred by white supremacists in Alabama and elsewhere during the voting rights struggle of the 1960s, whose descendants now wait in long lines and drive to faraway drop boxes to ensure those deaths were not in vain. Paul Richards, gay white Unitarian leader in Provincetown during the height of the AIDS epidemic, who said as he was dying, "Listen, in all this madness, even if it kills every single one of us and there's no one left to tell the stories, it matters that we love each other well." Unitarian minister Dr. Kyama Raman writes, "It is that time and place to hold the steadfast hands and hearts and prayers of the ancestors that have brought us this far. Time to make them proud and show them and ourselves what we are made of." This morning, as we sit in the anxiety of the coming days, let us be reminded by the struggles of those ancestors that our work does not end because of an election, no matter the results. Our work was always to transform the systems that grind people in their gears and to come together to tend one another's bodies and spirits amid that grinding. We will always be called to show up in love at the polls and the city council meeting and the emergency shelter and the protest. This work cannot be destroyed by Tuesday's results, nor will Tuesday's results complete it. In the poem by Luke Stevens Royer that we shared for our opening words, he reflected that voting is like kneeling in prayer because neither will accomplish anything right away, but the purpose of both is to remind us of our deepest hopes for the world that we are trying to help create. This election is desperately important. It is our chance to protect democracy, to stave off an explicitly intended authoritarian regime, to protect people most sent to the margins by the systems of power, and to restore some measure of bodily autonomy to our fellow Missourians. Voting is a powerful tool, one that people of many identities have fought and even died for across the generations, but voting is not our only tool. Voting is not the place that civic life ends, it is the place it begins. As Stevens Royer writes, the who of beloved community is not in the end the folks we elect to represent us. The who is us. Us joining hands, us holding power accountable, us loving each other materially, tangibly, lavishly, us walking with the wind to hold down the most vulnerable corners of our shared house. That who cannot be taken away. We will still be here on Wednesday and the coming week and the ones after, finding one another even under duress, organizing to show up for love and justice, organizing to show up for each other. In this, our ancestors are with us, our siblings in faith are with us, our community is with us. We are not alone. We are not alone. And this matters so much because we know that we are, in the words of the poet and movement organizer Adrienne Murray Brown, we are in an imagination battle for the kind of future that can still open ahead of us. And we know, especially here in Missouri, we know this battle does not end on November 6th, even if we win against a would-be dictator on the national stage. We know that no matter what happens at the federal level, we will still be living in Missouri in some fearful people's very limited imagination of who gets to live fully and who gets to love openly and who gets to parent and how. We will still be in an imagination battle that we can still win because there is also so much possibility alive in this state, in this world, in this very room. There are a million possible futures stretching out past anything we could ever imagine. Seeds of untamed possibility germinating in our communities, in our young people, in our elders, in all of us together. And it matters so much in this anxious election moment that we remember all of the beautiful possibility that is right here, and that we tend to that, and that we protect it and water it and help it grow. Because it is our forever job to imagine more in the face of deadening forces that tell us to imagine less. Because nurturing possibility, caring for possibility, which is our theme this month at UUCC, caring for possibility is the only way forward to the world we're actually dreaming about. You may remember that last year our teens here at UUCC hosted the first youth conference our region had held since COVID struck 4 years ago. And I attended the opening circle that our teenagers put together. Picture it. Our sanctuary was a total wreck of chairs and sleeping bags and board games and video games and so many kinds of chips getting crunched and crushed on these brand new carpets. Thank God for vacuums. And the teens were a whirl of wild fashions and weird jokes and glorious queer identities and wondrous neurodiversities and multiracial beauty. And I truly could not imagine what was going to unfold that weekend with all this unruly potential in the same room. And as I sat there, I remembered back to the couple of evangelical youth groups I was invited to as a teen growing up in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And actually a lot of the secular spaces of my youth there too. And I remembered viscerally in my body how predictable it all was and how the prevailing fashion prevailed. Back then it was Ugg boots and low-cut jeans. And how the divergent was shunned and how the heteronormative was enforced. We are circled about, aren't we, by cultures that tell us to imagine less. And it's all a microcosm, isn't it, of the worlds we're preparing for, of the pathways we're nurturing, of the futures we are allowing. So in the utter chaos of our UU Youth Conference last spring, I took a moment in the corner to practically weep with relief and hope. I looked around at all these wild teens being boisterously, extravagantly themselves, and I thought, this is who we are at our best. We are the people of untamed possibility. The people who look to each other in all our weird wondrousness and whisper yes, and keep imagining, and imagine even more. And then as I pulled myself together in the corner, the youth sat down, and they did what they do every time they gather for a conference. They made their covenant for the weekend, which is their list of commitments for how they would treat one another. And they agreed together to center on kindness and reject judgment, and to create a space where each of them could flourish in all their luscious differences. And they got really specific about what they each needed to make that happen, and how they would return to those commitments when they messed up. And I found myself bursting with proud joy that time. This is who we are too, at our best. Our teens show us the best of us. We are a people committed to each other's flourishing, especially amid difference. And this is why it matters so profoundly that we are here practicing Unitarian Universalism together, whatever may come in the coming weeks. Because we are living in a time when despair is very loud and control is very brutal. And there are powerful forces trying to march us down their single, terrible path of scarcity toward their certain and deadly future. And because in the face of all that, we remain a people of untamed possibility and commitment to each other's flourishing. We remain a people of promise. I think of our sanctuary that weekend, full of all those wild, weird teens. And on the one night when they actually slept, full of their quiet breathing, and all their deeply different dreams floating through the air of our sacred space. And I think this is what we do. We shelter all that is possible so that all may flourish. We are a people of promise. In a world that would stamp out all but the most predictable of possible futures, we commit ourselves fiercely to nurturing all the million wild seedlings of potential among us. That's what you do when you gather here each week. We dedicate ourselves, we promise ourselves to sheltering and unleashing the promise glowing in every single one of us. In ourselves, in our teens, in our children, in our elders, in the community beyond these walls. We promise to nurture their promise in the sure hope that that will transform the world. We are fiercely nurturing possibility in every small group and at every potluck, in every song we sing together full of breath and hope. We are nourishing untamed possibility in every owl sexuality education class, with each moment of spiritual practice, in every profound community partnership and justice ministry, and definitely at every youth group meeting and children's Sunday school class. We are here, and we will be here, imagining more and living out our fierce commitment to the wild possibilities that will allow us all to thrive. Can you see those possibilities taking root in this space? Can you feel them glowing in your bellies? Can you hear them softly breathing? All the possibilities, ready to flourish. Can you hear them fussing? All that possibility. That possibility will still be glowing and breathing on November 6th and beyond, and we are here, ready to protect that promise with everything we have. Because in this sanctuary, we are a sanctuary. We are a sanctuary for unbridled, unruly, unfurling seeds of potential, for a future that is open and gorgeous and free for all of us, every last one of us. Because we are a people of promise. We will vote as a people of promise, and we will continue to be a people of promise in our work every day together. I promise you this. Do you promise it too? All right. We're going to start, and then we're going to invite you to join us.
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back.
Will you rise or remain seated and join us with that first verse again?
Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on moving proudly. Keep on moving proudly.
Now is the time in our service each week when we celebrate generosity as a core value of our community, directing our resources toward our love for this world and its people. This month, as we talk about caring for possibility, and as we wrap up an election season that we should acknowledge has been particularly brutal and cruel in targeting our trans beloveds, and as we cast our ballots to protect possibility in our communities, we could think of no better recipient of our Faith to Action collections than the Pink Haven Coalition, a project of trans-led organizing creating pathways to safety, healthcare access, and more for trans folks in hostile places. During another musical offering from Violet, you can give with cash or check in the offering plate here in the sanctuary, or you can use the giving details in your order of service to give online or by text. But first, we're going to hear a little bit more about the work of Pink Haven from our wonderful community minister, Dottie Matthews, who has been working with the group for quite some time.
Thank you, Molly. Good to see you all. And actually, I don't need to add much more than that, although I should properly say, I am Dottie Matthews. I use she, her pronouns. And today I'm wearing a striped shirt and jeans. I have curly gray hair, and I'm an older woman. So I do want to thank the Social Action Team for electing to allow us to have Pink Haven Coalition as the recipient for this month's Faith to Action. Many of you know that in my retirement, I have continued to do the work of justice out in the world, and UUCC has been my home base in that, and Molly has been my significant counsel. And I'm very appreciative for all that support. As a community minister, from 2017 to 2022, I worked nationally on behalf of asylum seekers, individuals from mainly south of our border who were seeking safety and freedom in this country. And we helped many families and individuals find the ability to live freely in this country. Our own congregation has helped 2 such families. Well, last year, the UU Service Committee was contacted by the aforementioned organizers, trans people who are aware of the amazing, in such a horrific way, assault on their existence in this country. And if you've been paying attention to the political ads, especially in recent weeks, especially in sporting events, you know that some politicians have decided that targeting trans people, already so vulnerable in their existence, is their winning strategy. Well, the Pink Haven Coalition came together as trans organizers and came to the UU Service Committee and said, you're already helping asylum seekers find safety in this country. Can you help us move from states where we are unsafe to states where we can find dignity and the medical care we need and the protection and the solidarity? So that's the Pink Haven Coalition. It's organizers, activists, and people of faith who have come together to do everything we can to just help people find the place where they can be themselves as fully as they can and not be worried about their existence, not be worried about whether they can receive the medical care they need, not be worried about the violence that is escalating because of these comments that are being flown so brutally around this country now. So if you are moved to donate to the Pink Haven Coalition, I know your solidarity would be deeply, deeply appreciated. Many of the folks that the Pink Haven Coalition are helping are people that have no other safety net. They've been rejected by family. They have no wherewithal to get themselves from unsafe locations to safe locations. So your donations will literally save lives. Thank you for offering your voice for this cause. Thank you for offering your money for this cause.